Driverly.com, unlimited drama series.
How could signing everything away, my house, my car, my money, leave my wife so shaken she forgot how to smile? What did I know that made her own lawyer lose his temper in court, while I sat there calm as a lake? This is how I gave up everything she asked for, but walked out with my dignity, and delivered the kind of payback you only see in stories like this. The dream house on Maple Street looked perfect from the outside. White picket fence, manicured lawn, the kind of place where families were supposed to be happy. We'd moved in just 2 months ago, and already the cracks were showing. Not in the foundation, but in everything else. I stood in our spacious kitchen, watching my wife, Lana Mercer, flip through real estate magazines, while our 9-year-old son Mason picked at his cereal. The morning light caught the diamond on her wedding ring. The ring I'd saved 3 months to buy her 10 years ago. Now she barely looked at it, or at me. "Evan, your car is leaking oil on the driveway again," she said without looking up from a page featuring luxury condos downtown. "It's embarrassing. The Hendersons probably think we can't afford basic maintenance." I glanced out the window at my reliable Honda Civic, 8 years old, but it ran perfectly. "I'll take care of it this weekend." "You always say that." Lana finally looked at me, her green eyes cold. "Greg Shields just bought a new BMW. Says it's an investment in his image. Maybe you should think about that." Greg Shields. Her co-worker at the marketing firm. The name that came up more and more in our conversations lately. Mason looked between us, his dark hair falling into his eyes. "Dad, can we work on my science project today? It's due Monday." "Of course, buddy." I ruffled his hair, earning a small smile. "We'll make the best volcano Mrs. Patterson has ever seen." Lana snorted. "A volcano? How ambitious." She closed the magazine with a sharp snap. "I'm having lunch with my mother today. She wants to discuss some things." The way she said things made my stomach tighten. Denise Mercer, my mother-in-law, had never hidden her disapproval of me. I wasn't successful enough, ambitious enough, wealthy enough for her precious daughter. That evening, our neighbor Jared Hanks was hosting a barbecue. The whole cul-de-sac was there, families mingling on his back deck while kids ran around the yard. I was manning the grill, flipping burgers and making small talk, when I noticed Lana by the pool. She was laughing, really laughing for the first time in months. But not at anything I'd said. Greg Shields stood next to her, his hand casually resting on the small of her back, as he whispered something in her ear. He was everything I wasn't. Tall, polished, driving that new BMW Lana had mentioned. "Tough break, man," Jared murmured, appearing beside me with 2 beers. His weathered face showed genuine sympathy. I took the beer, my grip tighter than necessary. "What do you mean?" "Just, you know, the way she's been acting lately. People talk." Across the yard, Denise Mercer arrived fashionably late, immediately gravitating toward Lana and Greg. She air-kissed her daughter, then shook Greg's hand with the kind of enthusiasm she'd never shown me. When she spotted me at the grill, her smile disappeared. "Evan," she said, approaching with the expression of someone who'd stepped in something unpleasant. "Still playing chef, I see. Such a domestic hobby." "Someone's got to feed people," I replied evenly. "Oh, I'm sure Greg could have recommended an excellent caterer. He knows all the best places in the city." She glanced meaningfully toward her daughter and Greg, who were now posing for photos with other couples. Success opens so many doors. Mason ran up, grass stains on his knees, and joy on his face. "Dad! Tommy's dad says you make the best burgers in the neighborhood." "That's my boy," I said, pulling him into a one-armed hug. Denise's expression softened slightly when she looked at Mason, but hardened again when her eyes met mine. Such a shame when children get caught in the middle of transitions. The word hung in the air like smoke. Transitions. Later, as I was loading leftover food into our car, I caught a look between Lana and Greg that made everything crystal clear. It wasn't the look of co-workers or friends. It was intimate, familiar. Like they were sharing a secret the rest of us weren't privy to. My phone vibrated with a calendar reminder. Loan payment due. Check docs. I stared at the notification for a long moment, then glanced back at the house we'd moved into 2 months ago. The house Lana thought we owned outright. The house she'd been bragging about to her friends. Maybe it was time to check those documents very carefully. My home office was really just a converted corner of the garage, squeezed between storage boxes and Mason's bike. But it was quiet, and tonight I needed quiet to think. I pulled out the thick folder labeled Property Documents and spread the papers across my makeshift desk. The house on Maple Street. Purchase price $485,000. Down payment $48,500. Remaining balance $436,500. Financed over 30 years at 4.2% interest. Monthly payment $2,847, not including taxes and insurance. Lana thought I'd bought it outright with money from my engineering job and some fictional inheritance. I'd never corrected that assumption. I leaned back in my chair, remembering how we'd gotten here. College sweethearts. I was the steady engineering student. She was the ambitious communications major with big dreams. I'd worked 2 jobs to help pay for her graduate program while putting my own advanced degree on hold. Just until I get established, she'd promised. That was 8 years ago. Her career had taken off exactly as she'd planned. Marketing director at Pinnacle Creative, 6-figure salary, company car, expense account. Meanwhile, I'd stayed at Morrison Engineering, steady and reliable, making good money, but nothing flashy. Nothing that impressed Denise Mercer. The pattern had started small. Little comments about my clothes, my car, my lack of ambition. Jokes that weren't really jokes, especially when we had company. "Evan's so practical," she'd say with a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. "He thinks a big investment is buying name-brand cereal." Or, "My husband's idea of networking is talking to the neighbors about lawn care." Each comment was a paper cut, small but accumulating. 3 weeks ago at Mason's school pickup, I'd witnessed the most humiliating moment yet. Lana was talking to Greg in the parking lot, both of them leaning against his BMW while other parents walked by. When she saw me approaching in my Honda, she actually took a step away from me. "Oh, there's Evan," she'd said to Greg, her tone suggesting I was an inconvenience rather than her husband. "We should wrap this up." Greg had looked me up and down with barely concealed amusement. "Nice car," he'd said. "Very practical?" Mason had been watching from the school steps, his face confused and hurt. That night, he'd asked me why Mom and I never laughed anymore. I hadn't had a good answer. Now, sitting in my garage office, I opened my laptop and navigated to my bank account. The checking account Lana thought contained our combined savings actually held just enough to cover monthly expenses. The real money, what was left of it after the house down payment, was in an account she didn't know about. My phone rang. Patricia Trish Dalton, the family lawyer I'd quietly consulted last week. "Evan, I've been thinking about our conversation," her voice was concerned. "Are you absolutely sure you want to proceed this way? You could lose everything. I'm sure, Trish, but I need you to do something for me. I need you to review all the documentation on the house and the car. Every detail, every obligation." "The car too? I thought you owned that outright." "That's what everyone thinks. Just trust me on this." And Trish, not a word to anyone. Not yet. After I hung up, I walked back into the house. Lana was in the master bedroom, talking on her phone in hushed tones. When she saw me, she quickly ended the call. "Work," she said, not meeting my eyes. "At 10 p.m.? You know how it is. Greg's working on a big presentation for Monday. Team effort." Greg again. All always Greg. I got ready for bed in silence, listening to her text someone, the rapid tap, tap, tap of her fingers on the screen. When I glanced over, she angled the phone away from me. "Lana," I said quietly, "are you happy?" She looked up, startled. What kind of question is that? An honest one. For a moment, her mask slipped, and I saw something that might have been guilt. Then it was gone, replaced by irritation. I'm tired, Evan. Can we not do this tonight? But we both knew we'd have to do this eventually. The only question was when, and on whose terms. I closed my eyes and thought about Mason, about the confused look on his face in the school parking lot. Whatever was coming, I'd make sure he was protected. Everything else was just details. The line was crossed on a Tuesday morning in March, over coffee and croissants at Brewster's Cafe downtown. I'd arrived early, hoping for a quiet conversation with my wife about us, about Mason, about where we were heading. Instead, I found Lana at a corner table with Greg Shields, their heads bent together over what looked like apartment listings. They didn't see me at first. I stood by the entrance, watching my wife laugh at something Greg whispered in her ear. She was wearing the blue dress I'd bought her for our anniversary last year, the one she said made her feel beautiful. Her hand rested on his arm with casual intimacy. Evan! Lana's voice was too bright when she finally spotted me. What a surprise! Greg and I were just discussing the Morrison account. Greg didn't even have the decency to look embarrassed. He leaned back in his chair, coffee cup in hand, and smiled. Evan, good to see you. Lana was just telling me about your new place. Sounds like quite an upgrade. It is, I said, pulling out the third chair. Mind if I join you? The look that passed between them was quick but telling. Annoyance from Lana, amusement from Greg. Actually, Lana said, gathering her purse, we were just finishing up. I have a client call in 20 minutes. No rush, I said, settling into my seat. I can wait. Greg checked his expensive watch. Definitely not the kind you buy on an engineer's salary. You know what, Lana? Why don't I handle the Morrison presentation myself? Give you some time to sort things out? After he left, Lana and I sat in uncomfortable silence. Finally, she spoke. Evan, we need to talk. I'm listening. I'm not happy. Haven't been for a while, you know that. I nodded. What do you want to do about it? I think, she took a deep breath, I think we should separate. Maybe divorce. I've already talked to a lawyer. The words hit like a physical blow, even though I'd been expecting them. What about Mason? He'll be fine. Kids are resilient. And honestly, Evan, he deserves better than watching us pretend everything's okay. Better than what? Better than a father who's given up on life, who drives a car held together with duct tape and thinks a big night out is pizza at Romano's. I stared at her, this woman I'd loved for 12 years, supported through graduate school, built a life with. Is that really how you see me? I see someone who's comfortable being mediocre, and I can't do it anymore. That evening, I drove to Henderson Motors, the dealership where we'd bought Lana's SUV 6 months ago. The same SUV she'd been bragging about to everyone in the neighborhood. Mr. Carver, Tony Henderson greeted me with a salesman's enthusiasm. How's that Escalade treating your wife? Beautiful vehicle. Actually, I wanted to review the paperwork, the lease terms. His smile faltered slightly. The lease? Is there a problem? No problem. Just want to make sure I understand all the details, especially the transfer clauses. Tony pulled up our file on his computer, his expression growing puzzled. Well, you've got 2 years left on the lease, monthly payment of $847 plus insurance. Early termination fee would be substantial, and any transfer of the lease would require the new lessee to qualify financially and assume all obligations, including the early termination fee. Oh yes, that stays with the vehicle regardless of who's driving it. I thanked Tony and drove to First National Bank, where I'd financed the house. Samantha Rivers, our loan officer, was just as helpful. The mortgage is in excellent standing, Mr. Carver. You've never missed a payment. Though I have to say, taking on a $436,500 loan was ambitious. Most people in your situation would have started smaller. About that loan, I said carefully. If ownership were to transfer, what would happen to the remaining balance? The new owner would need to qualify for the mortgage and assume all payments, or pay off the loan in full. There's no way to transfer the house without transferring the debt. It's all tied together. That night, I found Lana in the kitchen, on the phone again. This time, she didn't bother hiding it. I know, Mom. You're right. I should have done this years ago. She glanced at me, then turned away. Greg thinks the downtown condo would be perfect. Close to work, good schools for Mason. I stood there listening to her plan our son's future with another man in another place, as if I were already gone. When she hung up, I said, Lana, before you make any big decisions, there are some things about our finances you should know. She waved me off. Evan, please, I'm not stupid. I know what we have and what we can afford. The house alone is worth almost $500,000. That's plenty to start fresh. Is it? Don't be dramatic. You'll be fine. We'll both be fine, better than fine. I nodded slowly, then walked to my garage office. From my files, I pulled out
two key cards. You asked for two. Who was the second for?
My colleague needed a place.
Your colleague who calls you baby in her texts?
Watch more on Grammarly.com.
two thick folders. One marked House Loan Documentation, and another marked Vehicle Lease Agreement. For the first time in months, I smiled. The mediation office smelled like stale coffee and broken dreams. Frank Morrow, Lana's lawyer, had the kind of confidence that comes from winning too many easy cases. He spread papers across the conference table like a general planning a victory. This should be straightforward, Frank announced, adjusting his expensive tie. Mrs. Mercer is asking for the family home, the Escalade, primary custody of the minor child, and 50% of all liquid assets. Very reasonable, considering the circumstances. Trish Dalton, my lawyer, raised an eyebrow. The circumstances being? Frank's smile was predatory. Mr. Carver's limited financial contribution to the household. Mrs. Mercer has been the primary breadwinner for years. Lana sat beside Frank, wearing a new outfit I didn't recognize. Probably bought with money from the joint account she thought contained our savings. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Evan, Trish said quietly, this is your last chance to reconsider. You don't have to agree to everything. I looked at the papers in front of me. House, transferred to Lana Mercer. Vehicle, transferred to Lana Mercer. Custody, primary to Lana Mercer. Visitation to Evan Carver. I agree to all of it, I said. The room went silent. Even Frank looked surprised. All of it? Trish repeated. Everything except one thing. I want joint custody of Mason. 50-50. That's non-negotiable. Lana finally looked at me. Evan, be realistic. You'll be moving into some apartment. Mason needs stability. He needs his father. That's my only condition. Frank whispered something to Lana, who nodded reluctantly. Fine. Joint custody. Excellent, Frank said, gathering his papers. We'll have the final documents ready for court next week. This is going to be one of the easiest divorces I've ever handled. After they left, Trish stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Evan, you just gave away a $500,000 house and a luxury vehicle. Are you sure you know what you're doing? I need you to do something for me, Trish. Double-check all the paperwork on the house and car. Make sure the transfer documents include everything. Every obligation, every payment, every detail. Every obligation? Evan, what aren't you telling me? Just make sure it's all legally binding. When Lana gets that house and car, I want her to get everything that comes with them. That afternoon, I stopped by the bank to sign some papers. Samantha Rivers processed the documents with professional efficiency. This is unusual, she said, reviewing the transfer forms. You're signing over ownership of the house, but also transferring the entire mortgage obligation. Most people try to split the debt. I want her to have everything. The house and everything that comes with it, including the remaining $431,000 balance, including every penny. Samantha looked concerned. Mr. Carver, I have to ask, does your wife understand she'll be solely responsible for a $2,847 monthly mortgage payment? She will soon enough. At home that evening, Lana was hosting what she called a pre-celebration with her friends. I could hear them laughing in the living room, toasting her upcoming freedom. To new beginnings, someone shouted. To trading up. That was Denise's voice. I found Mason in his room, playing with Legos but looking miserable. Hey, buddy, how are you doing with all this? He looked up with those serious dark eyes that reminded me of myself at his age. Dad, are you really going to live somewhere else? I sat on his bed, choosing my words carefully. Your mom and I are going to live in different places, but that doesn't change anything between you and me. I'll always be your dad, and I'll always be here for you. Will you still help me with my science projects? Every single one, I promise. He hugged me then, fierce and desperate, and I held him tight, thinking about the court date next week, thinking about the look on Frank Morrow's face when he realized what he'd negotiated for his client, thinking about justice. The week before the final hearing, I moved my personal belongings out of the house on Maple Street. Not much, really. Some clothes, my books, a few photos, my laptop. Everything that mattered to me was either coming with me or staying with Mason. I left the wedding photos on the mantel, the expensive furniture Lana had picked out, the kitchen gadgets we'd received as wedding gifts. Let her have it all. She was going to need everything she could get. This is really happening, Lana said, watching me pack my last box. She stood in the kitchen doorway, arms crossed, wearing an expression I couldn't read. You're really just leaving. Isn't this what you wanted? I wanted. She paused, seeming to struggle with something. I wanted you to fight for us, for me. I looked at her, really looked at her, this woman who'd spent months telling me I wasn't enough, who'd been planning her future with another man, while still wearing my ring. I did fight for us, Lana, for years. I fought by working 2 jobs to put you through grad school. I fought by supporting your career, even when it meant putting mine on hold. I fought by pretending not to notice when you started coming home late, when you stopped laughing at my jokes, when you started looking at me like I was a disappointment. Her face flushed. That's not. I fought by staying quiet when your mother made her little comments about my car, my job, my lack of ambition. I fought by smiling when Greg made his jokes about upgrading. But you know what, Lana? I'm tired of fighting for someone who doesn't want to be fought for. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, Greg thinks we should sell this place and get something downtown, closer to work. Greg thinks a lot of things. He's been very supportive through all this. I'm sure he has. That evening, I took Mason out for pizza at Romano's, the same place Lana had mocked as my idea of a big night out. Mason ordered pepperoni and told me about his upcoming baseball tryouts. Will you be there, Dad? Even if you and Mom are, you know. I'll be at every game, every practice, every school play. That's a promise. Good, because Tommy's dad missed his game last week, and Tommy was really sad. I'm not Tommy's dad, buddy. I'm your dad, and I'll always be there for you. The next morning, I met Trish at the courthouse. She handed me a stack of documents 3 inches thick. Final transfer papers, she said. House, car, everything. Once you sign these, there's no going back. I took the pen without hesitation. Any surprises in there? Just what you asked for. Complete transfer of assets and all associated obligations. Evan, I have to ask one more time. Are you absolutely certain about this? I've never been more certain of anything in my life. I signed every page without reading them. Each signature felt like a weight lifting off my shoulders. Across the courthouse lobby, Lana arrived with her entourage. Frank Morrow looking smugly confident, Denise Mercer practically glowing with satisfaction, and Greg Shields wearing a suit that probably cost more than my car. Lana caught my eye and smiled, the first genuine smile she'd given me in months. She thought she was about to win the lottery. Frank strutted over to where Trish and I were sitting. All ready to make this official? He asked, his tone suggesting he was doing me a favor. More ready than you know, I replied. The bailiff appeared at the courtroom doors. All parties in Mercer versus Carver. Please enter for final hearing. Lana squeezed Greg's hand, whispered something to her mother, and walked toward the courtroom with the confidence of someone who believed she'd already won. I followed behind, carrying nothing but the truth. The courtroom was smaller than I'd expected, but it felt enormous when Judge Patricia Hensley called our case. Lana sat at the plaintiff's table with Frank Morrow, practically radiating satisfaction. Her mother and Greg occupied the front row behind her, like a personal cheering section. I sat with Trish at the defendant's table, calm as still water. This appears to be an uncontested divorce, Judge Hensley said, reviewing the papers. Mr. Morrow, please summarize the terms of the agreement. Frank stood with theatrical confidence. Your Honor, This is indeed uncontested. Mr. Carver has graciously agreed to transfer the family home and vehicle to Mrs. Mercer, along with joint custody of their minor child. It's really quite generous of him. The word generous hung in the air like bait. Mr. Carver, the judge addressed me directly, you're giving up significant assets. Are you satisfied with this arrangement? I stood slowly. Completely satisfied, Your Honor. I want my wife to have everything she's asking for, everything that comes with it. Lana's smile widened. In the gallery, I heard Denise whisper, "Finally, some sense." Very well, Judge Hensley said. Are all transfer documents properly prepared? Trish rose beside me. Yes, Your Honor. Complete transfer of the property at 1247 Maple Street and the 2023 Cadillac Escalade, along with all associated obligations and liabilities. Frank nodded without really listening. All in order, Your Honor. Mr. Morrow, the judge said, have you reviewed these documents thoroughly? Of course, Your Honor. Standard asset transfer. My client is very pleased with the outcome. Judge Hensley's clerk, an older woman with sharp eyes, began reading from the transfer documents. Transfer of property at 1247 Maple Street. Purchase price $485,000, with remaining mortgage balance of $431,000 to be assumed entirely by Lana Mercer, with monthly payments of $2,847 plus taxes and insurance. Frank's confident expression flickered. He leaned over to whisper something to Lana, but the clerk continued reading. Transfer of 2023 Cadillac Escalade. Lease agreement with 24 months remaining at $847 per month. Early termination fee of $18,000. All obligations to be assumed by Lana Mercer. The courtroom went dead silent. Frank's face had gone from confident to confused to horrified in the span of 30 seconds. Your Honor, Frank stammered. I need a moment to review. You just told the court you'd reviewed everything thoroughly, Judge Hensley said coolly. Are you changing that statement? Lana was staring at Frank with growing panic. What's happening? What is she talking about? Frank frantically flipped through his papers, his face growing redder by the second. The house? There's still a mortgage, but she said... I said I wanted her to have the house, I said calmly. I never said it was paid for. Greg leaned forward from the gallery. Wait, what about the car? Leased, I replied. 2 years left on the lease. But don't worry, it's all hers now. The realization hit Lana like a physical blow. You mean the house payment, the car payment? $3,694 per month. Total, I said helpfully. Plus insurance, taxes, and maintenance. But you make 6 figures, right? Should be no problem. Frank Morrow's composure finally cracked completely. He slammed his briefcase shut with a sound like a gunshot. This is ridiculous. My client was deceived about the nature of these assets. By whom? Judge Hensley asked sharply. Did Mr. Carver lie about anything? Frank opened and closed his mouth like a fish out of water. Because the truth was, I hadn't lied about anything. I'd simply let everyone assume what they wanted to assume. Your Honor, Trish said smoothly, all documentation has been properly filed and reviewed. Mr. Carver is transferring exactly what Mrs. Mercer requested. The house and the car. The fact that these assets come with associated debts is standard in any property transfer. Lana stood up shakily. Evan, you can't do this. I can't afford... You wanted the house, Lana. You wanted the car. You wanted everything. Congratulations. It's all yours. Frank was gathering his papers with shaking hands. This is unethical. This is exactly what you negotiated, Judge Hensley said firmly. Unless you're admitting you failed to do due diligence for your client? Frank's face went purple. He grabbed his briefcase and stormed toward the courtroom doors. This isn't over, he shouted, his voice echoing off the walls. But it was over. Judge Hensley signed the final decree, making it official. Lana now owned a $500,000 house with a $431,000 mortgage and a luxury SUV with 2 years of lease payments. Greg was doing math on his phone, his face pale. Lana, this is almost $4,000 a month just for the house and car. Denise Mercer sat in stunned silence, her dreams of her daughter's wealthy new life crumbling in real time. I stood to leave, nodding to Mason, who'd been sitting quietly with Jared Hanks in the back row. My son looked confused but not upset. He didn't understand the financial details, but he could see that his dad had somehow won. "Evan!" Lana called after me, her voice breaking. "Evan, wait!" But I didn't wait. I walked out of that courtroom with my dignity intact and my son's respect preserved. Behind me, I could hear Lana's world collapsing as she realized that getting everything she wanted was going to cost her everything she had. I stepped into the courthouse lobby, feeling lighter than I had in years. Justice, it turned out, wasn't about revenge. It was about truth. And the truth was that sometimes the best way to win is to give people exactly what they ask for. The afternoon sun streamed through the courthouse windows as I walked toward the exit, toward my new life, toward... The world tilted sideways. The marble floor rushed up to meet me. Somewhere in the distance, I heard Lana screaming my name, but the sound was fading, until there was nothing but silence and the perfect, peaceful knowledge that I had won.